Hello, welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episode, that you find some inspiration along the way. We are in the first week of September, end of the first week of September? First week of September, beginning of September, year 2023. It is a beautiful gray, cloudy day here in Minnesota where I live with my husband and our two young children. It is the first week of school and therefore it feels like fall. I think, what is it? Meteorological fall is one date and astrological fall is another date. Am I saying that right? I think so. Meteorological fall is September 1st. And the other one, I think it's astrological. Maybe I'm not saying that right. And if so, I'll try to correct myself here on the screen. But that, I believe, is like the third week of September or something like that. Anyway, it feels like fall here. We had a big heat wave last week where we were reaching heat indices. Indices? Indexes? Indices? I don't know why I can't think of the words right now, but it was very hot. It was over 100 degrees and it was just way too hot. And finally, it cooled down this week. This morning it was in the mid 50s. I had the windows all open, and when I took the kids to school, it was like 63 degrees. It was beautiful. It was so nice. It has been about 3 weeks since we've had a chance to chat here. And I have so many things to share with you that honestly, I was starting to feel kind of overwhelmed, which feels a little bit silly because I shouldn't have to feel that way, and yet I did. So I think what I might try to do is break it up a little bit. So maybe this time I share all of these lovely finished projects with you. It's a combination of sewn items and knit items, and maybe next one I'll do a work in progress video and just do that next week, although some of them may become finished projects by then. No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm that close. Anyway, so I'm thinking that maybe I'll do one this week and then I'll do actually another one next week. That way I can just break it up into more manageable pieces. So that's kind of a heads up there that this episode won't have like all the chunks in it. If you are new here, big welcome to you. And what I mean by the chunks is that usually I have my videos organized so that I have a beginning vlog section, which is kind of like a video montage of things between the last time I recorded and now. And then I start with an intro where I give like a general life update, garden update, weather update, those kind of things, and just kind of set the stage, if you will, for what there is to come. And then I go into a finished project section, a works in progress section, an eats and reads section where I may talk about recipes that I've tried recently or just other things that I've been enjoying, and books that I've been reading. And then depending on time and just whether or not I have cohesive thoughts put together in a tangible format that I can relay out to the public, is that there will be a food for thought section. Now, again, like I said, because I just have a lot of things to share with you today, I'm going to cut some of those things short or cut them out and then maybe put it next week. So we'll see how far I get. I have a chicken pot pie in the crock pot bubbling away. That'll be so good for dinner tonight. Laundry is going, and yeah, let's see where we can get to here today. The garden is still doing lovely. We still have probably a month and a half of it to go before we really have to start cleaning it up. We have the dahlias still blooming, the hydrangeas still blooming, turtle heads, zinnias. There are a few daylilies that are still blooming, and what else is blooming? A lot of other plants are still blooming as well. But yes, the tomatoes are still producing, and I feel like the last hurrah is coming. Usually there'll be a ton of them when it's like really hot, and then once it starts cooling down, I feel like they give like a last hurrah and then they're kind of done. Especially if we get that freeze in October, then they're really done. But yes, Things are going well over here. I think with school starting this week, we are finding our new routine, our new balance, kind of our new flow. And as I get all the kids' activities on the calendar, figuring out who's going where what day and timing and just figuring out all those things. And yeah, we're just kind of falling into that new rhythm. Rhythm, that's the word I was looking for, a new rhythm. As far as, I guess, video nitty-gritty stuff, my episodes all include closed captioning, and if I speak too fast or too slow for your preferences, there is a button where you can adjust the speed here on YouTube for each individual video. I do use Ravelry for my projects, so you will find project pages linked below for that. And I also link to all designers, makers, things like that in the description box below this video. I don't usually attach all of their different socials and things like that because if they have a website, usually all of their information is there, and that just makes it easier for me and for you because you can find all of the things you need to find there. I think that's it. So let's jump into the finished projects. Okay, before I talk about the sweater that I'm wearing, I wanted to share with you these earrings. So these are handmade by women in Colombia, and they are beaded earrings. And these have a floral motif and kind of a peachy background to them. I bought them from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers website, where Candace and her team curate beautiful art pieces from various independent small companies, and I just love these. And I shared another pair, I think several weeks ago, that I had purchased, and I have a third one. So those will probably make an appearance at some point. This is the business tag, not a business card. This is the card that the earrings had come on. So here's the information on the screen. Okay, the sweater that I'm wearing. This is the Coloring Book Raglan pattern by Amy Scher, and this is my third or fourth version of this pattern. I just love it. It is a raglan top-down construction and knit on worsted weight, though I have done it on DK weight before. It has, I believe, 9 sizes. Let me pull up the information here so I can hopefully give you accurate information. It is meant to be worn with like a boxy, slightly oversized fit, but of course you can pick a size that works best for you. And the needles recommended are a US 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter, and a US 8 for the main fabric, which is a 5 millimeter. And the sizing ranges from a 35-inch chest circumference, or finished garment measurement, 35 inches up to 67 inches. And there are lots of different views available, which means you can mix and match. So you could do little stripes in the ribbing section, you can do bigger stripes in the body and in the sleeve. I made several modifications, as I like to do, because it's a way to play. And with a pattern that is mostly stockinette, aside from the ribbing at the edges, there's a lot of room to play and a lot of room to do kind of little fun things here and there that make each garment unique, even if they start from the same base pattern. I knit the second size for approximately 7 inches of positive ease, and I say approximately because the yarn that I knit in is cotton with a little yak. It is 75-25 organically grown cotton, 25% yak for this main part, which is the Pearl Soho Morning base, and it is so lovely and soft, and it comes at 191 yards for 100 grams. This colorway is Cucumber Ice. It's a very light mint color, minty green. And then I decided for these stripes to play with texture and a very subtle contrast. So this is the Serif base, which is 100% Pima cotton, also by Pearl Soho. It comes at 164 yards for 100 grams, and this colorway is Soft Aloe. So I wanted to play a little bit with texture and contrast. That's very low contrast. The texture of this Serif yarn is slightly more, I don't know how to, crinkly maybe? Is more crinkly. And then the morning base is very smooth. They both have I guess I don't know if I should say the serif has great texture definition, because I'm not sure, or stitch definition, because the crinkliness kind of blends it together. So maybe it has less stitch definition, but just more texture, whereas the morning base is very smooth and round and has excellent stitch definition. I think it looks really nice in this twisted rib, and something nice about this pattern is that there is this twisted rib motif that continues into the hem and then goes all the way up along the underarm of the sleeve. And then I did something a little bit different here at the, I guess, cuff part, is that I did some rapid decreases that gave a really fun shape. I don't know how to show this. Well, maybe this is better. That gave kind of a cool shape where it goes outward and joins into the cuff. So yeah, what else to say about this? Oh, I think I was talking about how the fiber content, so it stretches some with wear as cotton does, but this yarn is also machine washable and machine dryable, which I have done and it turned out just fine. So I do wash it on cold. I put it in one of those mesh garment bags to avoid it snagging on anything. And then in the dryer, I did a tumble dry on the lowest setting, I believe, and that just kind of pulled everything back together. It did pull back a little tighter than when I first knit it, but you could also just skip that drying step if you wanted to lay it out flat. And with wear, I feel like it just kind of relaxed back into molding over my body, and it fits great. I have not measured like a gauge post-dryer, pre-dryer, any of that stuff because, I don't know, it doesn't really matter to me. Being a boxier, oversized fit, I feel like even if it got a little bit smaller, it's not a big deal, and if it got a little bit bigger, again, it fits just fine. For the morning base, I used a total of 365 grams, and then for the serif, I strategically wanted to use up an entire skein, which was ended up being 98 grams for me. So what I did was I measured how many grams it would take to do one round, and then figured out how to divide it out into stripes that would maximize my yardage. And so 3 stripes did it for me, skipped it on the sleeves, and I was able to maximize my yardage for that one skein. So I was very happy with that. I had wanted a sweater that would be easy to throw on over anything, that sweatshirt-like feel, but I also wanted the sweatshirt-like care. So I wanted it to be machine washable. I wanted it to be something that I didn't have to worry about sunscreen getting on it in the summer, or bug spray, or like sand, or anything like that. And I feel like with some of my wool items, I still wear them all the time, but it's not something that I necessarily feel like is summer friendly. And if I get hot and a little sweaty, I feel the prickle, and I didn't want to feel any prickle. And with this, I feel 0 prickle. It is so comfortable, and I have worn it out on the lake, and it is so nice, and it's still warm because it's kind of like a worsted DK weight. I think it's, so with plant fibers, I feel like the yardage can be kind of confusing when trying to figure out if it's like worsted or DK weight, for example. So I think it's worsted. I did end up using a US 8 for the main fabric, but I did size down to a US 6 for the ribbing. And I feel like it turned out really well. I did the neckline as written, the yoke as written, I described what I did with the body section. Sleeves I did a little bit differently than the pattern, and yeah, it turned out to be a super wearable piece and just like I wanted. The next set of finished projects I would like to share with you are both the Ripple camisole, or rather it's the Ripple bralette that I modified into the camisole. It is a pattern by Jessie Made Designs, and she does have a pattern for the Ripple camisole. They are the same gauge, but your finished sizing for which chest circumference is different. And so I had just one of the patterns and was able to modify it to make it work for a camisole. So here is the first one. Dun, 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 dun. I love it. It is a fingering weight pattern that is knit bottom up, all in ribbing, and I feel like the edging that is knit as you go and all of the little details are what make it for me. And the fit. The fit is really good. But it is knit all in one piece, all seamless, and the edgings are just so tidy. It is the way that she has it written for how to do the decreases and everything, that it just flows really well together, and I love that. So this one, I did use the Farmer's Daughter Fibers August Sock Squad, and I didn't use the mini, so I used the main skein, which is, what is it? The Rocky Mountain Pearls base, 400 yards for 100 grams, and it is 80/20 super wash merino nylon. And this colorway was Yucca? I think that's what it was. And so I cast on the medium size, which is a finished circumference of 27 inches. So that gave me 5 inches of negative ease in the bust circumference and no ease at my natural waist. And that's what I was aiming for. It is really stretchy because it is ribbing, so there's a lot of give to it. And I did block it out pretty aggressively to the dimensions that I wanted. And so what I did was I did the cast on. I did an old Norwegian cast on because that's stretchy and that's the one I prefer. I omitted the ribbed band in the pattern because, again, the pattern I followed was for the bralette, not the pattern for the camisole. I don't know what it says in the camisole pattern because I don't have it. But that's what I did. And then I went for 12 inches before I started this back ribbing section that's on the top. And then I just followed the pattern as written. And for the straps, I went to a US 3. Oh, for the main fabric, I used a US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter needle. And then for the straps, I used a US 3, which is 3.25 millimeter. And I did bamboo DPNs for that because I feel like my I-cords tend to be a little looser. And because I knit them on DPNs, DPNs are double pointed needles. I was worried about the yarn slipping off. And so bamboo needles are slightly grippier than metal. I knit the rest of it in metal. So that's what I did. And I would rather the straps be slightly denser than too loose. So I feel like it turned out really well. It blocked out super neatly. I love how the center is symmetrical and it just looks so nice and it fits really well. I ended up using about 87 grams, so I was totally fine as far as yarn chicken goes. I probably could have even gone another inch or two, but it's fine. So then, after I made that one, it was so much fun that I had to cast on another one, and so I did. So this one, I used Sweet Georgia's Tough Love Sock Base in the colorway Cayenne. It is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon at 425 yards for 115 grams. So I would say it's a heavier fingering weight yarn. And this rusty red color is so lovely. I just think it's perfect for autumn. And my plan for these is not to wear them on their own because I don't usually wear like strappy tank tops out on their own, but my purpose for these is to wear them under like button-up plaid flannel shirts and under like woolly cardigans and have something that is a layering piece, an under layering piece. So that's my purpose for these. And the length, I wanted them to be at a length that I can tuck into pants. So the other one I can do into high-waisted pants because I feel like I could have done another inch. It's just fine, but I probably could have made it slightly longer. So this one I did make a little longer. I think I went to 13 or 14 inches for this one. I'm looking at my notes, but I don't think I wrote down the finished blocked measurements. And I did everything else the same. So I used the US 4 again on the main fabric and then the US 3 bamboo double pointed needles for the straps. This one I used 101 grams, so I did use a little bit more yarn and it was slightly heavier weight yarn than the previous one, even though both are classified as fingering weight yarns. And yeah, I love how it turned out. So yeah, I made this one slightly longer than the first one. Just, well, I'm not measuring that very well. Anyway, you'll just have to believe me. It's slightly longer, and I would love to make more of them. I have some of the bear paw sock base, which I can't remember right now. There's yak in it. I think it's like merino yak nylon that I have from previous Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad, and I want to use that to knit up more of these because I feel like that will be really soft against the skin, and it's a yarn that I felt like was a little more delicate to wear as socks, so I feel like it will work out really well for a camisole. So speaking of the Farmer's Daughter Fibers and their Sock Squad, so Sock Squad, I didn't explain, is an annual, well, it's a monthly subscription that you can sign up for the whole year, and you receive a 100-gram hank of yarn and a 20-gram mini, and this year it's based on wildflowers and its pollinators, and you don't know the colorway that you're getting ahead of time. We did receive a calendar at the beginning of the year which has an illustration of the colorway, but not necessarily the color you might expect. So they tell you the flower and its pollinator, and then the colorway is a surprise. So this is my third year participating, I think, third year. And so I have some yarns from previous projects that I have been enjoying making into hats. So this one is blue and orange, and it uses, let's see, this bright tangerine color is from the June 2021 mini from the Summer Sorbet set. And this variegated yellow-orange here is from September 2021 from the Fantastic Mr. Fox set. This yellow-orange speckly one is from March 2023 called California Poppy. And then this blue with some dark blue speckling is from December 2022 called To Medicine. So for this one, I followed the Musselburgh pattern by Zolda Teague, and I just basically knit each one till it ran out. And let me see here. The needle size I used was a US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needle, and my gauge was at 6 stitches per inch. And I cast on for the adult small, and this one is going into the gift bin for one of my nieces or nephew, and this is what it looks like folded up. So you tuck one end into the other so it's double layered. It is very nice and warm. So this way you see a little blue brim, and folded up you get this bright orange brim, and then flipped the other way there's this blue crown with the various orange stripes, and then folded up it has an orange brim with that blue stripe. So the way it was going to turn out and fold up was going to be a surprise to me. I didn't really color manage any of that part. Again, I was just knitting each color until it was going to run out. I did think a little bit about this striping, but I didn't try intentionally to have it land a certain place, if that makes sense. So I'm so happy with how this turned out. It was a really fun one to make, and I used, I don't think I wrote a total of how much yarn I used. I can do a quick math here. 20, 60, about 85, I think about 85 grams of fingering weight yarn for this. The next 5 finished projects are all sewing related. So I will probably put a timestamp here if sewing isn't your jam, and that's also a good spot to tell you that I usually section things off with timestamps in the description box below this video, so that if you end up having to break up watching into several days or whatever the case may be, or you're looking for something later, there are timestamps in the description box that will lead you to each section. So I think maybe for this time I will also just put a separate one on there for sewing, just because there's so many of them, and yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. The first one I'm going to share with you is, oh, you know what? I actually have 6, but I didn't bring one down. Let me go get it real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And I decided to put the one on that I forgot to bring down. So, okay, I will tell you how this got started. So, I have a couple of patterns that I have been sitting on for several years, and something that has always been a roadblock for me in starting a sewing project is the pattern itself. If there's no pattern and I can just do whatever and I don't have to worry about fit, I can just pick up something and just do it and be done. But if there's a specific fit involved, and if I have to print out pattern pieces to tape together and then trace the pattern onto tracing paper and then trace that onto the fabric I'm going to cut out and then cut out the fabric, oh, not to mention wash the fabric and then iron the fabric so that there aren't wrinkles, and then tracing the fabric or tracing the pattern onto the fabric and then cutting out the fabric and then serging the edges, it's kind of a lot. There's so many things that come into play before you can even sew the project together. And then if there's a part in the pattern that doesn't make sense, then you're kind of stuck. Or if you cut the pattern or cut the fabric the wrong way or something, you know that thing where that saying to measure twice, cut once? Well, yeah, it's not like knitting where you can just undo the whole thing and try again. Once you cut, your fabric is cut. And anyway, so lots of roadblocks. So a sewing shop relatively close to me recently got a big printer where they can print patterns on, is it A0 paper? I think that's what it's called, A0 paper. It's like about 3 by 4 feet. And when you buy a digital pattern, they often come with this printable, I don't know what it's called, commercial printing? I don't know. Anyway, it's printed on this big paper, and then you can avoid the part where you have to print out the pages on computer-sized paper and tape them all together. That part is probably my biggest issue with patterns, because if you get 1 millimeter off, the entire thing is all messed up basically, because everything relies on the other thing lining up, and I don't like it. So being able to take my pattern to be printed on this big paper where everything is already all lined up, which is amazing, makes such a big difference. And so, yeah, so I had 2 patterns printed from there, and it just gave me that kickstart to just do it, which was wonderful. So this is one of them. I'm gonna stand up here, still a little close, can't really back up, but this is the Hinterland dress pattern by Sew Liberated. It is a very popular pattern. It's been out for several years, and I couldn't get myself to print out all those pages. I ended up sewing the size 2, which gives me, I think, a couple inches of positive ease, maybe like 2 inches. And this has facings, which is how these edges are all finished. And I will say that takes some work. I ended up doing okay. I feel like they're relatively tidy. I'm trying to show you the insides here, but it's kind of hard to show you. I'm trying to show you the insides of the facings here, but it's kind of hard to show you while I'm wearing it. And it actually turned out okay. I did have to use a seam ripper a few times to make some adjustments, but yeah, not too bad. And it always looks better several days later when your face isn't like super close looking at these like millimeter wide stitches. And yeah, it's fabulous. The original pattern has the front open for a button placket, and I didn't want to do that. So I just cut that front piece on the fold and didn't make any other adjustments to that. I didn't make the bodice longer on this because I don't think I did. I was also working with limited amount of fabric. I had 2 yards of this fabric, which is a 44-inch wide fabric from Joann's, and I probably should have bought another yard. So then the top part I did with these stripes horizontal, and the bottom skirt part I did vertical, and I love how that looks. I have inseam pockets. It's a gathered skirt. It comes several inches above my knee, which is shorter than I would usually wear, but I'm gonna stand up here. But I've got these jeans on here, which I think it looks really cute with. You could also wear leggings with it in the cooler months, and like a cardigan, which would be really nice. And what else to say about this? I really like how it turned out. I love the fabric and it's super fun. It's 100% cotton. It is quilter's cotton, and I think it worked out really well. So I'm really happy that I jumped into it because I have other ones planned. The other pattern I've had from Sew Liberated is the metamorphic dress. And this one is basically 2 dresses in one. It's reversible. There are no facings in this one, which is fabulous, but you do make 2 dresses, and it's really fun actually. So I've made this one before, and I've talked about it on this channel before, I think 4 years ago. And I had some mishaps on that one because I cut the fabric the wrong way. Then it ended up having to be very patchworky. I used probably 6 different fabrics on that dress because I had to mix and match some things around. But it was a great learning experience and it was fun. So it took me 4 years to try it again, and I love this one. I have this one in 100% linen. I also did size 2, and the thing I changed was I lengthened the bodice by about 1.5 inches, and I did size 2 on the top, and I actually traced out the pattern for size 24 on the bottom because I wanted more gathering in the skirt. Now I will warn you that because it's a double layer skirt, if you do more fabric here, it's all going to be much bulkier, but I feel like the linen I used isn't super thick. It's probably a medium weight actually, light medium, I don't know. And it is slightly bulkier in this mid part, but it doesn't bother me. I kind of like the poof. So I'm gonna raise it up a little so you can see what the bottom looks like. So this top layer here has a slightly different shape in the hem. It's longer on the sides than the middle, which gives this beautiful, fun layering effect. I made this under layer part longer than the pattern piece. There is a section where it tells you how you can adjust it. So I wanted this part even longer. Otherwise, I think the finishing part ends up just at my knees, or this with this curved part being above my knees. But anyway, I didn't want it that short. So I lengthened this part, and I don't think I did any other lengthening adjustments to this top layer. But, so this whole dress is reversible. So now I flipped it. So if you wear it this way, then you don't see that other layer, and this part has a straight hem to it. So there it is. The one other thing I changed was how I did the side seams on this under layer part. Because it is visible when worn this way, for me it would be the dusty purple side out. The sides are visible because I made this longer, but if you do the same length, you won't see the seams on the side because it'll be matching up there. But because mine isn't, what I did was I folded under the seam allowance and then stitched it down. So it looks very finished and tidy. Hopefully it's showing up here on camera. So this would be the inside or the wrong side, and flipped over here is the right side or the outside. And I think it looks very tidy. I'm very happy with how that stitching went. But yes, this dress is so fun to wear and twirly and comfortable, and I decided to skip the patch pockets on the purple side because I didn't want it to look like an apron. This can be worn like a pinafore. It's meant to be slightly oversized, and the armholes are deeper, which I like. I do plan on using this also as a layering piece with cropped sweaters, and I just think it's gonna be so cute. And because the armholes are a little bit deeper, I think I should be able to wear like a thin long sleeve underneath if I wanted to as well. But yeah, I did do the inseam side pockets on this side, this taupey gray side, but yeah, I skipped the patch pockets on the other side. This was an enjoyable experience this second time around, and I would be happy making another one. I think I would like to try it in a different fabric material. The pattern, I believe, recommends like rayon or noir or other thin drapey materials. It's better to use something that doesn't have a wrong side, since the wrong side will show. I don't know. I'll look around and see what's exciting, but I think it could be fun to do one as a solid and then one as like a fun print. So we'll see where we go with that. I think I'm gonna put my sweater on over this because now I'm kind of chilly. But we are going to talk about the other 4 dresses that I sewed. I actually sewed those 4 before I sewed my own here. Actually, let me stand up. Does this kind of go? Look at all the stripes. This is kind of a fun outfit. I'd wear this out. It seems very colorful and like mismatchy, but goes together. I like that look. The other dresses I sewed are for my kids. This is also a very popular pattern. It's the geranium dress made by Ray. And this one has no facings, which is great. And the bodice is lined. And so a lot of those raw edges are all tucked inside. I like to serge all my edges before sewing so that there aren't all of these like stray threads everywhere. I just feel like it's a tidier finish, and then when I'm washing I don't have to also worry about threads everywhere. So I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they both love wearing dresses, and so I feel like while I still have the opportunity to sew for them, because they may or may not change their minds in the next 5 years, that I'm going to do so. And growing up, my mom sewed dresses and clothes for me all the time, and so it's just kind of nice to continue that. But yeah, so this one, the fabric, has flamingos all over it. And my 7-year-old picked out this fabric. And the waist here looks a little different than what the pattern states because I messed up. I misread the instructions on how to pull the lining part away from where I was stitching, and so I ended up stitching my lining down when I wasn't supposed to stitch the lining down. Anyway, it still ended up a very tidy finish, and it looks just fine. So I did snap buttons along the back, and I sewed, I think, the size 8. And it's a little bit roomy, which is nice and breathable and comfortable. And I did the longer maxi length. So then I sewed a second one for her. And this one has these beautiful flowers all over. And the fun thing about this fabric is that I'm pretty sure my mom sewed me a sundress with this fabric over 30 years ago. And when she was cleaning out some of her sewing things, she gave it to me. And so now I have sewn a dress for my daughter. Oh, and these all have side inseam pockets, which the kids find just wonderful because they're invisible. I mean, you basically can't find them, because I also did more gathering because I like poofy gathered dresses, and so do my kids. And so the pockets sometimes can be hard to find because they're tucked in there. But this one is also done at maxi length. I also did snap buttons on the back of this one. The kids like the snap buttons because it makes it easier for them to unbutton and button themselves versus the ones with a buttonhole. Sometimes those can be a little tight and tricky. So this one is for my 10-year-old. She picked this beautiful lightweight purple fern, like lavender lilac fern pattern, and these fabrics are all from Joann's. I don't know where the one from my mom is from, probably Joann's, but I don't really know. And this one, she actually wanted regular buttons, and I just happen to have these clear-ish flower buttons, and I just had 3, and so it worked out. And this one I did the lining the same fabric, and I also did a long maxi length, and this one turned out really lovely too. It's this one's thinner. I can't remember. Is it cotton lawn? Cotton voile? I don't remember what it's called. But because it's so gathered, I feel like there's more coverage, and so it's not as sheer looking. But yes, that one is beautiful, and she feels like a woodland princess in it. Now the fourth one, this one's also for the 10-year-old. She picked out this fabric. There are flowers all over and golden butterflies. And this one, I lengthened the bodice by, I think, 1 inch or so. And then for the bottom part, I used the full width of the fabric so that I could get more gathering and more poofiness and more twirliness. and it is so perfect. She says this one is her tea party dress, and I love how it turned out. This one we did just 2 snap buttons in the back. Oh, and I was gonna share with you how the inside, so the pattern, the way the lining was supposed to work is that it was supposed to come down and cover up the gathered part so that it's smooth. Now, the pattern also says to stitch in the ditch or hand stitch. I'm no good at stitching in the ditch on a machine. And what that means is using the machine and putting those stitches right in that join area. And I never have it come out very tidy. So by hand sewing that part, this is the inside. You can see the stitches here, maybe, I'm not sure. I have better control, and it is completely invisible on the outside. So I did end up still stitching in the ditch, but it is not visible at all. So I am very happy with how these turned out, and I have washed them in the washing machine already, and they have turned out just fine. Nothing fell apart. I think I also put them in those mesh garment bags. I just wanted to make sure they weren't going to get tangled up in anything because the dresses are longer, and I did not put them in the dryer. I hung them up to dry, and they seem to be turning out just fine. So I'm so happy with them, and the girls are really, really delighted with them as well. Okay, my friends, I think that is everything that I wanted to share with you today. There was a ton of finished projects that I finished in the last 3 weeks. I'm just glad that we had a chance to sit down and chat. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to record next week, and we will talk about works in progress at that time, any other finished projects that show up between now and then. And I have been doing a little bit of reading, so we'll talk about that next time. And yeah, I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about. So I hope you are doing well. I hope you are taking good care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your neighbors. And I will talk to you next time. Cheers to being creative. Take care.